Good evening, welcome to Taking Stock. We're going to have 3 bites at the banking cherry this evening. First, you're going to learn all about Tyme Digital, which was an Australian startup, now being run by African Rainbow Capital. You're going to hear from Michael Jordaan's Bank CEO, and we'll also talk to Adrian Gore, Chief Executive of Discovery Bank. 3 segments tonight here on Taking Stock. First, look what happens when I do this. Well, first up on this triptych of brand new banks is Tyme Digital. Chief Executive Sipho Shabalala is with us this evening. It's been a painful birth, Sipho. I mean, it starts off with your Australian owned, then the Australians go through a banking crisis of their own. They pull out, you're left out to dry, and Patrice Motsepe steps into the breach. It's been quite an adventure.
Yeah, it's been a tough journey for us. And if you think about where the journey started, really, it started roughly, I think, 2015 when we started the concept of building the bank. As like any other startup, you have these ups and downs. You think you're ready and you're not ready, and then you have curveballs thrown at you with the Australian sort of issue. But I must say also, the Australian shareholder was a very good shareholder to this bank. We've covered a lot of ground with the Australian to set up the bank. And we are very comfortable and very happy that, when there was a change in terms of their strategy, that ARC sort of stepped in and took the majority stake in the business. So you remember that they already had about 10% of the company. So it was only natural for them to think about, as they were looking at expanding their portfolio of businesses, to think about Tyme and how Tyme could fit within that, within the overall strategy of ARC.
Now, banking used to be you had to be 150 years old, you had to have a headquarters built out of stone, you had to look solid and reliable and trustworthy. The bank of today is nothing. The bank of today doesn't exist. Tyme Digital is a figment of digital imagination.
Well, if you think about it, you're absolutely right. And I think this is the great thing about digital disruption, as it affects many industries. So if you think about how quickly business models developed out of digital banking models, it's really sort of transformed banking in a very different way. And also, I guess, if you think from the benefit from a customer point of view, it's actually great because it takes out the cost of setting up a bank. And when you are able to actually set up the bank that we have, the way that we have been, we are able to give back to our customer. So all of that huge infrastructure, huge legacy systems that are built in a traditional environment, we don't have any of those issues or any of that legacy to deal with.
Makes it hard to acquire customers. Was it always the plan to tie up with Pick n Pay?
Well, I think if you think about the model of the bank itself, it is a partnership-driven banking model. So we'll be looking to engage with many other partners. Obviously, Pick n Pay has been a great partner in terms of our proposition. And also, it has been most obvious in terms of you think about their client pools that they have. I think many people would be aware that they have about 10 million customers on their Smart Shopper program. That gives us a good opportunity for us to see how we can collaborate with them to actually grow customers as well from a banking point of view.
The Pick n Pay's history, and you will know this from your time at Nedbank, because Nedbank was involved with Pick n Pay in something called Go Banking.
Yeah.
The idea that you go to the supermarket, you get a tin of beans, you get some maize meal, a bottle of milk, and a bank account.
Yeah.
It failed.
Yeah.
Why will this work?
Well, I think if you've got alignment with the partners, and I guess it comes back to the issue in terms of, the way that we are able to collaborate with them at a much more deeper level, rather than being seen just as a supplier of a service within that environment. So if you look at the proposition that we are now putting to the market, we've been able to integrate a Smart Shopper program within the banking environment, which gives them a lot more coverage in terms of their loyalty program, where really you can earn Smart Shopper points in the Pick n Pay environment. And also through our innovation, you can now earn Smart Shopper point outside of Pick n Pay. So it really puts their Smart Shopper program on steroids in terms of growing that proposition. And there's many other things that we're doing together that actually makes a whole lot of sense for both.
Who's your customer?
So if you think about the customer, we've spoken, I think, a lot about in terms of our financial inclusion strategy, really sort of wanting to target the underserved segment. And I think there's been a little bit more sort of confusion around this particular point. So the customer is anyone that could today have a banking account, but they are not fully utilizing the banking account, or they have some issues that they are not happy about in terms of how their banking proposition is offered to them. So give you an example, we all understand that banking is quite a complex thing for customers, average customers to have. It is costly. There's a lot of fees that people are paying. They don't understand all of the mechanics of what they pay for in their accounts. So the proposition that we bring to the market, we are very comfortable that the proposition stretches across, whether you are, have a little money or you have a lot of money.
What are you going to offer? Just a basic current account? Will you offer short-term loans? Can I get a car through Tyme Digital? Will you finance my house?
Absolutely, yes. So the offer that is currently out there in the market is a basic transactional account. Within that transactional account, we offer a savings sort of a proposition which we call a goal save. Within the savings proposition, we pay some really attractive interest rates for our customers, which goes, I think, up to about 10%. But also, the ease of opening up a bank account is something that is never heard of in this country. So when you open your bank account in the Pick and Pay environment or Boxer environment, it's quite a seamless process. It takes you less than 5 minutes. There's no documentation. You just go to the kiosk and then you open your account. Voila, in 5 minutes you have your banking account.
Huge pressure on banks.
Yes.
Huge pressure on banks. From a fees perspective, how are you going to make money out of this, especially because you're going to have to share some of the spoils with your friends at Pick and Pay?
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, if you think about setting up a bank and you think about the brick and mortar type infrastructure that you have to set up to operate a bank in a traditional way, there's a lot of money that is involved in that. We don't have any of that cost.
You've had to spend millions, though, creating tech and creating the technology behind this. And you'll have to maintain that.
Absolutely.
That's expensive.
But the beauty of it also in terms of how the tech is, the spend on the tech is actually, it's quite an elastic sort of tech environment. So as you probably would know, all our sort of banking platforms, core banking systems are on cloud. So you pay for what you use. As you grow the bank, obviously, you use more capacity. But it is a very cost-effective banking model. So we've created that in understanding what the impact that we want to make for the South African public around banking fees and making banking accessible to everybody in South Africa.
Banking's about trust. How much damage is the collapse and the failure and the liquidation of VBS done to your plans?
Well, that's a great question, because I think it's all about people trusting the bank to know that when they put their money in the bank, the money will always be there.
Why should we trust Tyme Digital? You don't have a track record. You're a brand new startup. Yeah. Why should I put my salary into a Tyme Digital account?
So if you look in terms of how the bank started, and I've spoken earlier on about the shareholders that have been involved in this business from a Commonwealth Bank of, it's a huge bank. It's the 10th largest bank in the world. So we have a lot of that credentials that we take forward with us in terms of how we've built the bank in the first place. So it is quite a robust sort of a banking platform that protects customers' money. Also, if you think about the shareholder of the current shareholder in terms of ARC and what they do for the broader society in South Africa, you look at the Ubuntu sort of trust, and you look at the deep empowerment that they've driven in terms of this country. One actually takes a lot of comfort in that to say this is the bank that actually has the interest of the South Africans at heart.
Sipho Shabalala, we will leave it there. We're due across town to see bank number 2, which is launching at the moment. That's Discovery Bank. That's coming up in a moment.